we've really come a long way in starting to relax a little bit. Absolutely excelled within the first couple of weeks, and the slang kicks in. I hear them asking for my togs and my jandals, and I look at people and think, what? I basically said to myself, look, I'm not going to settle for anything less. I was getting rejected left, right, and center, blindly hoping that something will come through, but just absolutely nothing. It's just not even a reply, not even a response. I got used to that rejection notices pretty damn quickly, to be honest. Well, I decided to change my approach. I kept on and on and on and be like a dog with a bone, and I'm not going to stop. You know, there is no magic pill. It's bloody hard work.
Today we say welcome to Jan Visser, or Jan, maybe you're known in New Zealand as Jan Visser. I'm not quite sure how they pronounce your name in New Zealand, but welcome and thank you for taking the time after hours to chat to us. It's really exciting to be able to talk to you. Very refreshing, to be honest, because all the other folk that we've spoken to previously have had quite a lot of challenges. I'm not saying that you guys didn't have, but you're sort of still very fresh off the boat, as they like to say. You've only been in New Zealand for a year and a bit. I think it's a year and 3 months. So maybe we kick off with, you haven't even been here for a year and a half. So how are you finding life in New Zealand? And I specifically want to mention that I've got the Queenstown background because you're down in the South Island. So you're one of our clients that we've helped that has ended up in the South Island. So I thought to appropriately put in the background the beautiful Queenstown in honor of our South Island clients. So maybe you could just give us a run through of how you're finding it, because it is still early days for you in New Zealand.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Don, and thank you for having me on the podcast. I must say it was a pretty smooth ride for us. I think we probably, I don't know if we're blessed or lucky or just everything fell in place at the right times, but it's been a really smooth and easy ride for us. Yes, there's been a few hiccups along the way, but I think everything worked out as planned. Everything ran pretty smooth. There's no issues with the visas, with the residence application. So yeah, that went absolutely fantastic, which probably made the transition for us a little bit easier. We didn't have to stress too much about the job or finding accommodation or, you know, all of the stresses that people go through, because I was fortunate enough to secure a job, which I'm sure we'll touch on a bit later, that was really helpful and easy to integrate into. But yeah, great to see the mountains. If I just look out my window, I see the Southern Alps with the snow on them as well. So it's an absolutely fantastic view every morning. We live in one of the smaller towns on the west coast, Hokitika. There's only about 3,800 people that live in this town. So it's really one of the rural towns. It's probably a lot different from what a lot of people experience in the big cities. But what we found, especially in the smaller communities, people are just absolutely willing to help with anything they can. We came over, and within the first 3 days, we had people giving us couches and fridges and TVs and just handing stuff over, just because they know we've just come over, we've got everything in front of us, we've got a lot to do, and they've just been super helpful. We absolutely love it. I mean, the outdoors and just the nature walks and the scenery is breathtaking. Every morning when I get up and drive to work, I've got the ocean on my right and the Southern Alps on my left, and it's just absolutely stunning. And to experience the freedom, you know, we never really had our kids go out in the street with their bicycles or go and play in the playground purely because of the safety risk and the issues in South Africa. Whereas here, it took us so quick to get used to, you know, let them run ahead at the supermarket and go to the toy aisle, where usually I'd have them, you know, with me, not out of sight. We've really come a long way in starting to relax a little bit and starting to enjoy what this great country is about. The kids are in school. They're doing super well. My little one started with kindergarten, but he's going to school in September. So another 2 weeks, then he's starting primary school. My daughter's in primary school as well. And we actually thought they're going to have a difficult time adapting and getting used to school in English, and it's going to be easier for us. But it was actually the other way around. They just soaked it up like little sponges and just absolutely excelled within the first couple of weeks. There's probably a bit of shell shock for them at school in the beginning, but the teachers and everybody's just so much more accommodating and so much more open and willing to assist with obviously the amount of migrants coming into the New Zealand. It was really smooth and really seamless for us, but we are absolutely loving it. It's absolutely gorgeous over here.
Fantastic. Really good to hear. So did they speak English before they arrived in New Zealand?
Yeah, my daughter probably a bit more than my son. She was 5 and my son was 3. So we had a couple of English friends and some English family, but predominantly we were Afrikaans, but they could have a conversation in English. Obviously you get over here and the slang kicks in. I hear them asking for my togs and my jandals, and I look at people and think, what the hell are you talking about? And they picked up those things quicker than what we did and probably taught us a few things.
Yeah.
But no, they integrated with the English pretty quick.
Yeah, I think they're going to teach you shortly. I see that with my niece as well. She's a full-blown Kiwi, and she also tells her mum what the correct wording is in New Zealand. So yeah, they're definitely be teaching you for sure. So that's wonderful, and it was good to see them as well. I saw them before we started the podcast, so it was wonderful to be able to see them again as well. Usually when we chatted and you were in South Africa, they were already fast asleep. So it's lovely to see them in New Zealand. So why did you decide on New Zealand? I mean, you're still young, and I think you're in a good job as such, so you could have maybe looked at other countries. Did you look at other countries?
We looked at Canada and Australia initially. I wanted to get out of South Africa quite urgently. I felt the need to make a life elsewhere. We had a look at Canada and Australia, but not really putting in the effort and the work to make it happen. So it was more an idea and a goal to eventually end up there, but no really effort to making it happen.
Yes.
Then my brother moved to New Zealand and a couple of friends. And what really kickstarting it for me was seeing them make the move and seeing them look for work and walking the path sort of with them, seeing how they approach things and the goals and the excitement when the job offer came through and then the visas came through and then the flight tickets was bought and the farewell party, and sort of walking alongside them and seeing what they had to do to make it happen sort of kickstarted it for us. And we had a long conversation, me and my wife, and we sort of said to each other, look, it's either going to be a dream to immigrate one day or we got to make it happen. And we sort of said to each other, look, we're going to go full beans. We're going to give it absolutely everything. We're going to have a crack at it. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, we're not going to stand back and say we didn't put in 100% effort. So that really kickstarted it for me. And because I had my brother on the South Island and a lot of friends on the North Island, a concern for me was being all alone in the country with no one to turn to, no one to go and see if things get tough. And because we had so many people over here, it just made sense to come over here. We can always get in the car and drive to my brother. Or if we would have been on the North Island, drive up to Auckland and go see someone familiar and just spend some time with family. So that's basically why we ended up choosing New Zealand. And obviously because of the fact that, it's English speaking, it's not a new language. Obviously it's a bit colder and there's a bit more rain and there's snow in the mountains, but it's a lot more similar to South Africa than going to the Northern Hemisphere. So I think culture and all that sort of things is a bit closer to what we're used to than if we would have moved to Canada or somewhere in Europe. And yeah, but I think at the end of the day, the main reason was the family and the friends we had here, and just the comfort in knowing we can get into a car and go and see someone if we needed to.
Yeah, so you didn't limit yourself to the South Island. You didn't originally plan South Island. You said North or South, wherever the job takes you. Okay.
Yeah, correct. We actually planned on going to the North Island, and in our ignorance, you sort of know the big cities, Auckland, Wellington, and Christchurch, and that's sort of where we guided my job search and whatever. Probably mostly Auckland, because that's probably the most we knew about New Zealand. But with my brother on the South Island, that obviously opened the door for us to say, look, if we do end up going there, it's not the end of the world. We can get into a car and drive to Christchurch and go and see my brother, which made it a bit easier for us.
Yes, and it certainly seems as if you're really well settled in Hokitika, so that's really great.
Yeah.
So what are the steps that you took to prepare for the move? Because I mean, it is a big move, and it's a big move irrespective of if you had plain sailing with your visas or not. The move itself is still a big one.
Yeah. So it's quite daunting. And when I started really putting in the effort to make things happen, I realized the big task that was ahead of me. And for me, the first thing I did is I phoned my brother because he was in New Zealand already, and I said, "Look, I know you used someone to assist you with your visas. Who did you use? Because if it worked for you, then it'll work for me." So he obviously put me in contact with you guys, and that was the first thing. Contacted you guys at Auckland Immigration Services, had the initial meeting, and just understand: am I able to move? Do I have the correct qualifications? What do I need? Is this idea in vain, or is it something that I can make work? And that was sort of the starting point. And you gave me advice saying, have a look and get your documentation in place. And that's something that I took to heart. And I went and I made sure I got our birth certificates and I got our marriage certificates and I got passports for the kids and for us. And I did police clearance certificates. And I was shocked at the amount of paperwork I needed and the amount of documentation I needed. And I'm really glad I started that first. Before I even started looking at any work, I started getting my documentation in place. So I think that really helped me because it took that stress off. When the job offer came later on, I had all my documentation in place. Everything was ready to go.
I was going through your file earlier, and there's 498 documents on your file. So yeah, just to give perspective to when you say a lot of documents, it's a lot of documents.
Yeah,
but
there was a lot.
But that also, I think, that also contributed to the fact that it was plain sailing, because when we really needed it, we could hit the ground running with your residence, because there was just a small opportunity that we had to be able to apply for residence. That's good. So that was the first thing, is to do research, and that's also something that I mentioned to people is research if you're going to work with an immigration advisor or not. If you're not going to work with an immigration advisor, you need to research and understand the visa categories, understand what the way forward would be, and then work from there onwards, because a lot of people, I think, start at the job hunting, which is actually not the right place according to me, where you should start. That's sort of later on in the process, right? So you got all the documents, many hundreds of documents, which is good. And that took a fair few months, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, things like unabridged birth certificate in South Africa takes you about 4 months to get. It really shouldn't, but that's a different conversation. But I mean, just getting that what took us ages, and we didn't. You don't think about that, and you can't apply for your residence without having it. And if you're not in the country, if you now try and get something from the South African government, it's just impossible. So I'm really glad I took the advice on to heart, and I went at it full beans and got all that documentation. So that really made things easier for me.
We still needed that elusive job offer, which is what everybody needs. What is the plan with searching for a job and attaining a job? How did you go about it?
It was challenging to start off with, to be honest. I knew what I needed to earn to be able to gain residence. I believed I had enough experience. I had about 18 years experience in facilities management, property management. So I was confident from doing a lot of research and speaking to a lot of people that I can get that salary for that line of work. I basically said to myself, look, I'm not going to settle for anything less. And initially, I started applying on all the job boards, from Seek, probably was the biggest one, Facebook ads. I can't even remember all the websites, careers, like the South African Careers 24 and jobs at whatever. Yeah, all that sort of websites. And I registered on absolutely every single one of them. And I put my CV out there. And I contacted you guys to get that confirmation letter that I have engaged with you guys, and I've got my documentation in place, and I'm busy with an immigration process, which I also attached as a cover letter, which definitely helped, just to sort of show that I'm serious about moving, and that
does show commitment. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. It shows commitment. But I was getting rejected left, right, and center, and it started to bug me. I would get rejected that quick. I would send in a couple of applications, and within 5 to 10 minutes of sending it in, I get rejection emails, and realize that there's a lot of these resumes that I'm sending in is probably not even reaching an HR person or someone. It's going through a system that probably applies a metric on what CVs goes through. And I did a little bit of research, and I decided to change my strategy. I went about that for probably a couple of months, blindly hoping that something will come through and getting excited every time I saw a job that really was fit for what I'm looking for, but just absolutely nothing. It's just not even a reply, not even a response, just an automated email saying, thank you for your application. We'll be in touch, or a straight off, we're looking for
automated rejection.
Yeah, automated rejection. Yeah. So I got used to that rejection notices pretty damn quickly, to be honest. And then, speaking to a couple of people, I decided to change my approach. And this really, it hit home for me, because it actually got me a couple of interviews, and it got me landing a job. I did some research on what the companies are that is doing the work that I would like to go and work for. And I started researching them, and I started getting contact details for them. And I started reaching out to them, seeing who their directors is, who their HR person is, who their managers is, and started, connecting with them on LinkedIn. And then what I would do, I'd go see what posts they had on LinkedIn and what projects they're busy with. And I'd start commenting and saying, I see you've got a big solar project at this shopping mall, or you're busy with this. We're doing similar work in South Africa. And just sort of trying to engage with a target group of employers that I would like to market myself to, and getting in front of those people. Because I believe that the second you can get your face in front of someone and you can start to sell yourself, you've got an opportunity and you've got a chance. But to make that happen is where the challenge lies. And I also realized, it's, especially from being here now, it's hard work to employ a migrant from overseas as well. There's a lot of paperwork. It's much easier employing someone down the street. So it's a risk for an employer to employ someone from South Africa to New Zealand, especially if you're not in the country, and they take a big risk, keeping the position for you and waiting 2-3 months for you to sort out your visa. So you really got to sell yourself. So, like I said, I targeted these companies, and I reached out to them and communicated with them, and I shared projects that I did in South Africa, which were similar to what they did. And I said, hey, look at this, this is what we've been doing in South Africa. It's very similar to what you do, but, how did you approach this and how did you approach that? Being in facilities management, there's quite a wide array of work that we do. I even shared some stories on the riots that we had back in, what was it, July 21, I think, or 22. I can't remember the riots we had in South Africa, where there was a lot of shopping centers looted. And I was involved with managing a lot of those shopping centers. And I sort of put out there to see what security solutions there is in the country and how they approach riots. And not that there is a lot of rioting here in New Zealand, but sort of, like I said, just speaking to the people and speaking to a targeted group, not like throwing a ball into the bushes and hoping someone would catch it, but really targeting a group, saying, these are the employers. And I had a little spreadsheet going. I probably had 70 or 80 companies that does facilities management that I had listed. And I had all the directors' names, and I had a list of who I sent emails to, what their responses was, who I'm connected to on LinkedIn. And I just kept working on that and kept working on that. And in conjunction with that, also reaching out to the recruiters. Instead of just sending a mail to the recruiter, trying to see who those people are, getting in touch with them on LinkedIn, trying to set up meetings with them, saying, hey, I know you don't have a job specifically in my field of work at the moment, but can we have a quick meeting and can I show you what I'm about? I was also told doing a resume video would help, because people can see your face and they can hear you speak. So I did a little video and I sent it to all the recruiters, and I just kept on and on and on, and eventually landed the job.
So did they reach out to you then, or was it one of the recruiters? Did you work through a recruiter or?
No, it was for a council. So it was a government position, and I just got the email from them saying, hey, we received your resume. Would you be interested in the interview? And I said, yes, for sure. So to be honest, I reached out to so many people and I sent so many resumes, and I don't even recall sending my CV to them, because I sent it to so many people. So when I got it, I really tried to think back, when did I send this through, and what made me want to apply for this position? But I kept on and on and on, and got a fish on the hook, which was great.
Great. Relentless. That's what you need to do. Hey, but at the same time, I think it's very, very important what you said now is, it's not just, I mean, you did in the beginning send out your CV to many, maybe recruiters and or employers, or based on jobs that have been advertised. But once you saw that didn't work, you had to change the strategy. So that's what advice that I can also, always say to people is, if it doesn't work after 2 or 3 months, it doesn't help, just keep doing it.
I mean, I was stoked that I got the job offer. I got another interview in Auckland for the Green Building Council of New Zealand, and I went through the first interview. They decided not to take me through to the second interview, and I had a few other interviews, but this one, when it came through, it just felt like the right thing. And even though we had no idea where Hokitika was or what it was about, the moment that offer came through, I said to my wife, "We're on the way. We'll have to go and research where we're going to, but we're on the way." So, then a whole lot of other things kick in. But yeah, I think I was absolutely relentless. I said to my wife, "I will not go to bed a single night without having sent something through on a resume, or researched something, or read something, or planned something." I literally worked on it every single day for that 7 or 8, whatever months it was, to get that job offer. So you can't expect that it's just going to fall in your lap. You got to put in the hard yards. And I really did that. And it's, like you said, 7 months is maybe doesn't feel like that long of a time, but it feels like absolutely ages. I mean, especially if you put in that amount of effort and that amount of time. You just got to bite the bullet and say, "I'm going to be like a dog with a bone, and I'm not going to stop. I'm going to make this work," because nobody else is going to make it work for you. Nobody's going to ring you up and say, "Hey, do you want a new life in New Zealand?" I want a new life. I gotta make it happen. I was told by a person, or it might have been a podcast or something that I watched, and someone said, "What you need to realize, that position you're applying for online, there's tens of thousands of people from India and Pakistan and Sri Lanka."
I told you that.
And all, wow, yeah, and everybody else applying for the same position. And what is your chances in between all those CVs of actually getting through? So you gotta change the approach and do something different and market yourself.
Yeah, you've got to elevate yourself somehow. From a point of, now that you're in New Zealand, you can also see why, as you said yourself, the employers are not just readily taking on any migrant as such, because it costs them money, not only for them to get to the point where they can actually offer you the job, or that you can apply for the work visa, but it also costs them money in waiting for you. So if they can get somebody that can start within 3 weeks or 4 weeks, why wouldn't they? They've got to wait a few months, and then it is a risk for them as well, waiting for you. And I mean, I do know of cases where people have come over, they've worked literally a day or a week and then left again after the employers paid so much money for them to get here and do things and wait for them, etc. So if you really, really want that job, you need to do something to elevate yourself above others, because you don't just compete against fellow South Africans, you compete against the rest of the world. So is there any advice that you would offer to folk that are embarking on this journey and would like to get where you are at the moment with a new life in New Zealand? Is there any advice you can offer, or anything that you would have liked to have known before you came over?
Advice, I'd just say, just be relentless and do your planning and do your homework. The more you plan and the more you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, it just makes the transition so easy. Have a game plan, have an action plan, know how you're going to go about searching your job, and be honest with yourself. And if it takes you 2-3 months and you don't get a single response, then you've got to be honest with yourself and say, "Look, I'm doing something wrong." Don't get frustrated with the system. Be honest with yourself and say, "Look, I got to change. I got to, I don't know, redo my CV, or relook at how I'm applying for work, or relook at what my target audience is, or look at how I'm marketing myself, or whatever the case might be." But you got to be adaptable, be honest and open, and keep at it. I think that persistence is probably the most important thing, and don't take it personal. You're going to get rejected every single day. Just if you're going to let that get you down, then it's not going to happen. I know a lot of people who's embarked with this journey at the same time as us, and they're still sitting with absolutely no progress. Yes, it's going to cost you money. Yes, it's going to cost you time. Yes, it's going to cost you effort. But if you don't put it in, you're not going to get the result at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't think we've had a lot of surprises and a lot of things that really took our breaths away, other than little minor things. I think we integrated pretty easy in the workplace.
But just a what if question. So what if you didn't have a pathway to residence at all? would you and your family still come over? Would you look at coming over for 5 years for a work visa and then having to return?
Yeah, that was something that was never an option for us, and which probably prompted us to do all that homework and know exactly what our pathways to residence is. And that was super stressful. I mean, you think the second you get on an airplane and you fly over the waters, you start your new life and all that stress disappears. Now the stress starts getting your residence, and you got to keep on working. You know, that effort and that work you put in getting your visa and getting the job offer, you got to keep on at it and keep going, because the immigration rules keep on changing and the residence system keeps on changing. And I know the visa cost is going up now quite drastically from October. So it's a changing playing field and the goalposts keep on moving. So that was quite stressful for me. But no, I wanted to come over, make the move and make the transition once. I didn't want to move over to the country without having secured a job with my family and have that unknown. The risk was just too big for me. And I know a lot of people probably doesn't feel the same way. And there's a lot of single people and it might be different for them. But for me, it was absolutely integral knowing that I've got a job to start when I come over and that I'm able to get my residence. I do not want to make this move again, to do it low risk and give it everything.
And you're now here to stay, which is great.
That's it. Yeah.
So part of the integration into New Zealand as well, and your job, I mean, it's such a small place, Hokitika. You're working for the council in Hokitika. How's the projects going at work?
Yeah, it's going great. With the town being so small, you know, everything the council does, everybody knows. Council is in the newspapers every second day. I've had photos of me and articles of me in the newspaper a couple of times already. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to be involved with the stage 2 redevelopment project of our public swimming pool, which I did up. We put in new change rooms, new entrance, a new pool liner, and a new plant room. So that was quite a nice project to be involved in.
Wow.
And then also put in a playground. We've got a park in the middle of the town called Cass Square, and the playground for the kids was probably about 32 years old. And we had $1 million project to replace that with a new playground. And again, I was fortunate enough to run with the project, go out on tender and deliver the project. And at the end of the day, you know, have the park open, and the mayor was there cutting a ribbon, and it's such nice projects to be involved in, and such a nice community to be involved with. There's always the people that's going to be negative, asking why we need a playground and why our rates money needs to go towards that. But the appreciation from the majority of the community and how I've been received after, you know, showing that council can deliver nice projects and deliver it on time and within budget and have a great outcome for the community has been an absolute pleasure. And it just made my integration so much easier. You know, it connected me to people and contractors and families and users of the pool and the playground. I'm currently busy with a museum project at the moment. So, you know, there's more involvement and more coming, which is absolutely great.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you're actually quite well known probably in Hokitika then, because if you're in the face of it and you're doing all these projects, and it seems to be really cool projects to be involved with, not riots.
Yeah, no, much better than the riots we had back in South Africa and the security issues we've had there. It's really a breath of fresh air, and being able to deliver something for the community by working with council. I mean, we've put in public toilets and, you know, a whole array of projects that I've done in the short time that I've been here.
I really want, and especially my clients, like, they must keep the name of the migrant up there, you know, so that it actually helps the next set of migrants to get jobs. Because if the migrant doesn't pull their weight, then the employer's not going to look at employing more migrants, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely don't want to be the person that's going to cause your employer to go and say, oh, not another South African. You want to be the person that puts in the hard yard and makes a name for yourself. And they must rather say, oh, we need a couple more South Africans. Geez, these guys, they are bloody hardworking. And that's really the feedback that I'm getting. People enjoy employing South Africans, particularly because of our work ethic and the fact that we're really hardworking and we put in those hard yards. I mean, at the end of the day, I knew coming here, my visa was linked to the position that I've been offered, and if I don't make it work, you know, that's on me. So you got to put in all the effort and make sure you you pay back the opportunity that you've been given, and you show your worth.
Yes, because you're carrying that on your shoulders as well as you're actually carrying the country and your fellow countrymen. You're also actually, sort of working for them to be able to have opportunities further down the line. Thank you very much, Jan. Is there any other final words that you'd like to share with the viewers and subscribers? Any words of wisdom?
I thought about this actually before coming on this podcast, trying to think what I could share that can really help people. And I don't have something that's really going to blow everybody's minds. It's going to say, oh, there's the magic pill. There is no magic pill. It's bloody hard work. What I would say is just spend your time with the ones you love, do your preparation, do your homework, get your documentation so you can focus on what's important. From the time that we got that job offer till the time we got on the airplane, it feels so quick. But at the end of the day, for everybody else, life goes on back in South Africa. For you get on that airplane and you sit on an airport in Dubai or Qatar or Sydney or wherever it is that you're flying, and you look at each other and you think, what the hell are we doing? But I mean, life goes on for everybody else. So really look after your immediate family, look after your wife and your kids, and make sure you take this journey together. Don't drive yourself apart with all the stress. Sort your documentation, sort all that things out, and focus on what's important, because it is really a big move. It's tough. It's emotional. We had a lot of things that we went through, and we had a death in the family a couple of weeks before we flew out. So we went through a bit of hardship on that side, but having all the other things planned and ready, I knew where I was going to get my driver's license. I knew where we were going to live. I knew, all of that was planned out. So the more you plan things out and the more you prepare yourself, the more time you've got to, like I said, focus on what's important and keep your family together and enjoy it as a journey. A lot of people come over and it's a super stressful thing, and it's just a horrible time of your life. But if you work methodically and you plan and structure your things properly, it can be enjoyable, even though it's super stressful. But yeah, try and enjoy the journey. It's not just the end result, it's the journey. And if you don't enjoy every moment of it, what's the point at the end of the day?
Yeah, exactly. And those stressful times can either bring people closer together, or it can drive you apart from one another. So very wise words of, know what your focus is, and your focus should be your family. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jan, for being prepared to chat to us and give us your immigrant story. And it's really been a privilege to be able to help you. And I'm really pleased that you and your family are here. And if ever I swing past Hokitika, I'll definitely come and visit one of the families of the how many families are there? Maybe 1,000 families in Hokitika.
Yeah.
It won't be difficult to find you then.
No, there's only one Fizzer family around here.
Fizzer, one Fizzer family.
Fizzer, Jan Fizzer.
Thank you very much, Jan. Tammy only speaks very highly of yourselves and your family, and she says that you're very organized, and she really was happy to work with you and assist you to be able to get to this point where you have New Zealand residence. She's really always speaks very highly of you as clients. So thank you very much for working with us.
Yeah, and thank you, Dom, and Tammy as well. I mean, the instructions was clear. They were easy to follow. You need this by this time. You need that by that time. It wasn't difficult. It wasn't hard to follow, and it wasn't hard to execute. So, that just made it easier. So thank you.